You're very welcome on to the Matchbook Football Podcast, and this is a special Christmas edition. We don't get to do this all years because the weekends just run into the Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then we're into Stephen's Day or Boxing Day, wherever you're watching or listening. So, yeah, I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined as I am every single week by Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke. And maybe, Mark, just a quick reflection on the year. It's a long year sometimes, sometimes it's a grind. But I feel this season we've had a bit of fun with it, and I think the long shots have added to it. But we've seen our listeners grow, our viewers grow on all platforms, and it's great to have that interaction with the viewers and listeners.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, I'm not always across the figures, but that's always encouraging to hear. Often do get some nice feedback from people who do listen in, some DMs and stuff to sort of thank us for the content, thank us for some of the winners that we've put up. A few times I've been wrongly messaged when it was Adrian's winners, but I'll take them. So if you want to carry on doing that, I'm more than happy to sort of take that as well. But yeah, no, it's always been good fun. It's been a busy year with the major tournament in the summer as well. But yeah, I've always enjoyed sort of turning up. This doesn't feel like work at all, sort of talking football and betting with you guys. Having various discussions and sort of listening to opposing views or opinions if there ever are some too. So yeah, really enjoyed it. So thanks for the opportunity, and I hope the guys listening have enjoyed it too, because it's been good fun to be part of.
Mark getting DM'd for your winners, Adrian. That hasn't crossed my desk. Has it crossed your desk throughout the year at all? Or?
I don't get it the other way around. Yeah, unfortunately. No, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, look, you're going to have a few losers, of course you are. But yeah, I got to say, when a long shot lands, it does feel good. It really does. Now, I feel a little bit unlucky with the old Brentford to get beat by Forest. I mean, the Brentford could have scored several goals in that game. They peppered Forest early doors and got beat. So yeah, that was one that hit the post. There'll be a few of those, but yeah, no, we do like a little long shot landing, don't we?
Yeah, that would have been a sensational 25-ish double between the two of you guys, because obviously Mark had Villa and over 1.5 goals. I mean, the more you think about that, that's just such a good price on Aston Villa, isn't it? It's always tough to find them at the start, but taking on Manchester City has been profitable. But yeah, on behalf of the viewers, and this is my thanks to both of you guys, it's a great listen. I actually listen back to every single show every week to get an extra bit of insight to see what I missed during the original recording. So thanks to you guys. I personally am, in my biased and unbiased view, it's the two best previews out there for the Premier League, the two best listens between the two of you guys. So yeah, much appreciated from all, and a special shout out to producer Ryan, who's done 99.9% of all the shows throughout producing it in the background there. So big thumbs up to producer Ryan. RC Fights on Twitter correctly called Usyk to beat Tyson Fury. Max Bet, he said, some of us like yours truly should have listened, but never does, obviously. But fair play to Ryan. On behalf of all the wider Matchbook team, a Merry Christmas to all the viewers and listeners. And just for a little thank you, we're actually doing our regular £10 podcast bet builder money back special, but it is going to be £20 this week. It's going to be on the Brighton Brentford game on the 27th. Skip ahead on the timestamps in your description now to check out what the guys have bundled together. We've made it a sort of around a 4.0 shot to give you a bit of fun to play with there on the 27th. So do check that out. But we'll be covering 3 Stephen's Day games. I'm Irish, so I'm allowed to say that. Newcastle, Villa, Forest, Spurs, Chelsea versus Fulham. And then we will do the Brighton Brentford game. Any other bets which feature quite a few fun ones, I would say, quite a few interesting ones, particularly from Adrian Clarke, which we'll get into the long shots as we've touched on, and best bets. Regular shout outs as always. Like and subscribe if you are watching or listening, wherever you're watching or listening, that is, insights.matchbook.com for a full recap. And we will be putting up loads of bets that are best price on the exchange, but also you can do the bet builder product as well. So a lot of options on the Matchbook betting exchange. Let's start. Newcastle versus Aston Villa. I mean, I think this is probably the best game and maybe the second game we cover, but Newcastle Villa. Let's take a look at the betting we have on matchbook.com. Both sides coming off big wins over the weekend. Newcastle 2.0 shots at home to Villa, who are 385. The draw is 4.0. Both teams to score currently stands at 162. The Asian handicap line sees Villa get a half goal head start. That's effectively double chance at 198. Best price out there. The total 2.5 and the over is 1.6. Mark, kick us off. I mean, goals surely in this game.
Yeah, I would think so. I'll start with Newcastle, really, because firstly, I'm very pleased, Freddie, how, just when questions have started to be asked about his future, I think Newcastle have responded really well, not just with those 3 excellent wins over the last week or so, but I think before then, the passage of travel had been relatively positive, even if the results hadn't always sort of followed that that route. But yeah, back-to-back 4-0 wins, regardless of the opposition, has to be kind of commended in the Premier League. And I know Brentford weren't at full strength last midweek, but still, a place in a cup semi-final is a big achievement. So yeah, 11 goals scored in 3 games. But Saturday, I thought, was arguably their most impressive against Ipswich. Took an early lead, very commanding throughout, really. Never sort of gave up control of that match. Excellent from start to finish. And obviously Isak gets the applaudits, but Jacob Murphy just continues to thrive, really, in recent weeks. A goal and assist, heavily involved in the opener again. And yeah, as I say, the performances have improved since those early weeks of the campaign. I've got Newcastle ranked 6th on expected points. And if you look at the last 12 Premier League games, they're up in 4th on that metric as well. Only 4 sides have actually won the XG battle more often than Newcastle this season: Liverpool, Arsenal, Bournemouth, and Villa. So Villa, obviously, the latest team to hurt Man City, did so pretty comfortably, I thought, on the balance of play. Unai Emery, nice and punchy post-match, saying his side imposed and dominated, which I did think they did for most part of that match. And played with real energy, physicality, and quality. The midfield functioned really, really well. Now they've got players back from injury. Duran obviously scoring goals, leading the line too. So yeah, I think on first glance, I did think Villa were actually a touch too big here. They're actually 5th on expected points across the whole campaign. However, the bulk of their best work has been done at Villa Park, and whilst the schedule has been tough on their travels, they've already played 3 of the top 4 away. They're actually rating as a bottom half side on the road. So that kind of put me off them a little bit, as did their defensive record. Just 2 clean sheets all season in the Premier League, which does always make it a little bit difficult for them to sort of consistently pick up positive results, especially away from Villa Park. So I'm going to leave the result out of the equation and go back to what you said at the beginning there, Dan, and just focus on goals, because whilst Newcastle have racked up 5 clean sheets of their own, 4 of those have come against bottom 6 opposition. Nick Pope, of course, is missing still. And collectively, these 2 teams have scored in 27 of their combined 34 league matches this season. We've got 2 very informed strikers on show, defences that have proven penetrable when sort of stepping up in class, and 8 of Newcastle's 10 against the top 12 have seen BTTS play. 12 of Villa's 14, when excluding the top 3, have also seen BTTS pay. So yeah, I was expecting BTTS to be a bit bigger than the 162. We're on this show quite regularly, sort of talking about prices of 150 and below in the Premier League fixtures, which we cover. So 162-ish. If you combine that with over 2.5 goals, you're getting a 1.8 shot here, which we're only ruling out the 1-1 here. So I think that's the avenue of attack here. It's not often we're getting these kind of prices in big games that matter, with attacks as sharp as these 2. So that was my angle of choice. But just as an aside, our old friend Anthony Taylor is refereeing this game too. So if you did want to bolster the odds again, that under 69.5, winning again at the weekend, 19 of the last 21 he's involved in have gone under 69.5. But I'll just keep it simple with the goals.
Okay, if anyone wants to go a little bit bigger on the bet builder, but 1.8, that price, both teams are scoring over 2.5 goals. The both teams to score price itself 165, compared to, for example, Adrian 139 in the game we're going to cover next. It does seem quite a jump, because these 2 teams are relatively attacking going forward, and Mark's outlined a lot of the expected points, 5th and 6th on expected points. I'm slightly surprised by that, to be fair.
Yeah, 2 teams in good form. Look, I've got the same pick. Both teams are scoring over 2.5. Really stands out to me. Look, they're both in really good form. Murphy, fantastic. Obviously, Rodgers for Villa. I've seen both of these guys in the not too distant past in the flesh in League One. I saw Murphy. I was on loan at Southend. Wasn't particularly good during that spell, but pleased to see how far he's come. And Morgan Rodgers, I saw at Lincoln. Yeah, it just goes to show, there are some real gems out there across the other 3 main divisions of English football, and that's why the pyramid is so important. We've got to protect it, haven't we? But yeah, look, Newcastle were brilliant at Ipswich, no doubt about it. Absolutely superb, back-to-back 4-0 wins as well for them, and they've kind of got not the Indian sign over Villa, but they did the double on them last year. They won 5-1 at St James's on the opening day. They won 3-1 at Villa Park. So Howe has got the better of Emery in recent meetings, but wait for this. Newcastle haven't won more than 2 in a row this season. You have to go all the way back to September 2023 for the last time Newcastle won 3 in a row. But That's why I want to leave this game alone in terms of picking a winner. Like you say, Villa just beat City, superb physical performance, won 3 of their last 4. But they've been at home, haven't they? What I mean, yeah, they've been winning at home. On the road, they've lost to Forest, they've lost to Chelsea, they've lost to Liverpool, they've lost to Spurs. Not great. So you can't really get on side with Villa going to St James's either. So yeah, I just don't want to go near the outcome. I don't know who's going to win this game. A couple more stats: 71% about success rate in terms of over 2.5, and both teams to score in Villa games this season. 6 of their 8 away games this season, they've seen both teams to score land. And Newcastle have only got 1 clean sheet in 10 games against the top 10. So or 9 games against the top 10. So they've struggled to keep out the best teams in the division. The 1 clean sheet was against Arsenal, of course. So which was frustrating from my end. But yeah, I would imagine both teams getting on the score sheet here, and then we just need a 3rd goal, don't we? So I'm going to go both teams to score and over 2.5, 1.8.
Okay, agreement from the guys to open our special Christmas show. And Adrian, very quickly, is there a Morgan Rogers? Who is the next Morgan Rogers? Is there one coming up in the chain?
And that's a good question. Yeah, it's never easy to tell at the time. I really liked Morgan Rogers when he was at Lincoln, but you wouldn't have said, he's physically developed. He's come up. He wasn't as powerful then. He was always quick and a good dribbler. But there's some good players in the Championship. I think there's some standout ones. Obviously, Borja Science is on fire for Norwich. He's one to keep your eye on. There's a few at Sunderland, Rigg and Bellingham and a couple of others. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to hang my hat on one in particular just yet. I'll let me have the Christmas period to think about that one.
There's a show on that for sure. I'll try and get it signed off with the guys here at Team Matchbook. But we will lock in both teams to score and over 2.5 goals, 1.8. Seems that there are goals in that game, to be fair. And another game that probably has goals given one of the teams involved, and maybe another team as well. Nottingham Forest are hosting Tottenham. Forest flying. I mean, if you look at these 2 teams' position in table, you would just flip it essentially at the start of the season, perhaps. But Forest are 242, Spurs 3.0, and draw is 385. Both teams to score. Yes, currently at 139, but that might settle into the 1.4s. The Asian handicap line sees Spurs get a 1/4 goal head start here, but it is 1-87, and the total here is 3.5 at under 168. And Adrian, maybe broadly on Spurs before giving your pick in this game. Like, I do like what he's trying to do in terms of, this is the way we play, it's who we are, mate, and all that stuff. But like, you look at that back 5, in fairness to him, and he know where to go with that. But on the other hand, of course, you've got to adapt your game based on the opposition, that sort of thing. Do you like Ange and the way he's trying to do it? And can you see any sort of future if, for example, they don't have a great Christmas period, which you might expect given their injuries?
No, I think he's on. I think he could easily get the sack in the next couple of months if it carries on like this. The circumstances are gone against him for sure. Obviously, losing your keeper, your 2 centre halves. He's got problems with it, Doggy as well at the moment. That is big. But I do feel, even though I admire the whole conviction of his philosophy, and it is great to watch, and they're involved in so many entertaining games, I do think it's detrimental to Tottenham's chance of picking up points. I just think that you've got to tweak and you've got to adapt. If you've got Dragusin and Archie Gray at the back, and I feel for Archie Gray because he's a central midfielder that can play at fullback, not a centre half, yet the tactic, the way the team is set up, is there to expose him as if he's Van der Ven, as if he's got the recovery pace of him or the aggression of Romero, which he hasn't. And Dragusin is having an absolute Reggie Blinker at the moment as well, isn't he? He is all over the place. So I think you've got to adjust your tactics a little bit, personally. And I would say that most Spurs fans probably agree on the back of getting spanked 6-3, but it won't change. I wish more managers did adopt his tactics because I love watching it and it's fun and it's brilliant entertainment. But in terms of their league position, I can't help but think it's suffering quite badly because of the tactics.
Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it, where like bar Pedro Porro, Dragusin Gray, Spence, Forster, they don't get in any Premier League team, let alone, you know, a team like Spurs. But it is adapting and playing that front four. They're traveling away to Nottingham Forest here, Adrian, who are maybe the complete opposite in terms of how they're doing in the league. They just keep getting results, and that performance and result away to Brentford just gives them such a platform heading into this Christmas period. I mean, how far can this Forest team go? And then looking ahead to Spurs, what do you fancy here?
Yeah, they're really, really impressed with Nottingham Forest. You know, they've been excellent, haven't they? Such big improvements. Great, great organisation. Obviously, in this game at Brentford, they went to a back three, which is something we haven't really seen for a while from them. And yeah, they had a shaky start when Brentford really could have scored 2 or 3 goals, but they grew into it and yeah, looked really, really good. So no, I think Nuno's a terrific manager. He really is. He likes to bloody the noses of the big teams, or he always did at Wolves. You know, they always gave the top sides a hard game, and yeah, you'd have to fancy them, wouldn't you, at home to Tottenham at the moment with that defence that we've been talking about. Chris Wood is very much a powerful runner. He's quick. He's much quicker than you think. At latching onto 1v1s, you've got Elanga and Hudson-Odoi who are electric, even faster than Chris Wood. So they got a front three that can absolutely run in behind Spurs. And Spurs are going to run into a really well-organised Forest defence. You know, Milenkovic has been really, really good alongside Murillo. So, yeah, I fancy Forest here. I do. I mean, you've got to go. First of all, Mark put a little message on the group, didn't he, at the start yesterday, saying new rule for the pod: we're not allowed to put any kind of unders on a Tottenham game. So I'm kicking straight off with that. Going over 2.5 goals because Spurs are in it. And I'm just going to pair it with Nottingham Forest double chance, and it takes us to 2.2. So you know you've got quite a lot of scorelines there that would appeal. You know, Spurs matches in the Premier League under Postecoglou averaged 3.6 goals. I mean, most, you know, in recent weeks, that's way above that. But even so, 3.6 goals per game is the highest of any manager in Premier League history that's managed over 50 games. So, you know, Postecoglou is the great entertainer. You know, you just don't know what you're going to get with Spurs. That's the risk with this particular bet because, you know, that handsome win at Old Trafford, went to Brighton and lost. No show at Palace. Then they went to City, spanked them. Rubbish down at Bournemouth, lost easily. And then they went to Southampton and won 5-0. So you really don't know what you're going to get, but you can only really judge it on current form. And Forest are far more reliable on current form than Spurs, who have lost all 4 games this season against teams in the top 5. And Forest, of course, are in the top 5 at the moment. So yeah, when I chuck it all together, definitely over 2.5, and then I'm just going to bet that Spurs won't win the game. So I'm going to go with the Forest win or the Forest draw, 2.2.
Forest double chance over 2.5 goals, 2.2. Mark, well, I don't want this to be a long show, but I have a lot to discuss here. We'll start with Spurs, maybe an Ange Postecoglou, and what I asked Adrian on that back 5 or 4 of them. I don't think we're getting any team at the moment in the Premier League, like in the top maybe 12, 13, 14. How can he adapt if their players aren't there, or do you admire what he's doing? Because we obviously admire him, particularly both of us, given what he did at Celtic. And I think if he had the players at disposal, perhaps this way of playing might be the right way of playing.
Yeah, I mean, it depends when we want to talk about Ange Postecoglou, and it just comes on the back of a 6-3 spanking away at the runaway league leaders of the Premier League right now. So perhaps a bit of balance is required, because it wasn't long ago, since Adrian just mentioned, that they absolutely trounced Man City away at the Etihad 4-0. They also won at Old Trafford. These are the kind of games and experiences as Tottenham fans you're just not used to. So whilst the highs are incredibly high, yeah, the lows are low too. Thursday night, he sent out a strong side, or his best available side, and they get to a cup semi-final by beating Man United relatively comfortably, even if the scoreline didn't suggest so. So, you know, I think perhaps that played a part as well against Liverpool, who rested 7 or 8 players in their midweek cup game. So they did look laboured from the off, but yeah, I do have mixed feelings about the approach, because I adore his philosophy, his character, his attitude. But he is bang on about the state of the squad right now. And I think there's sort of a thinly veiled message there to the board that more investment is required. And there was protests around the club, not massive protests, but there were protests at the weekend against Daniel Levy, as there have been for quite some time, about the lack of investment going into the team. And they just don't have the squad to compete right now. And again, I think balance is required, perspective, because last season they finished just 2 points outside of the top four. They went closer to the top four battle than most people predicted they would be at the start of the season after losing their legendary top goal scorer. So I think he has done a hell of a lot of good. But yeah, he's just in a very difficult moment right now. I agree with Adrian. At times it has looked very, very kamikaze, and you do wonder whether he's able to just tinker things a little bit to try and improve matters, because Liverpool could easily have scored 7 or 8 at the weekend, but he's not going to change. And I think that's a plus actually for Nottingham Forest, because they know exactly the sort of style, the approach that Spurs are going to take here. And I think it might well play into their hands, because they're quite happy to sit in their shape, defend diligently, and break at pace. And Rodrigo Bentancur is available now for Tottenham, but I believe that's the only player likely to be fit or available this time around compared to the side who played against Liverpool. I don't think he's going to transform them overnight or make them into a rock-solid outfit. They're down to the bare bones at the back, and I think it really shows. So, yeah, Forest have been one of the major storylines in the Premier League over the last year. They were just above the relegation zone when Nuno was appointed. Now they're heading into Christmas in the top 4, 7 wins in the last 10, the highest league position at this stage of the season for 30 years. An incredible turnaround, really, built upon that rock-solid defence. An incisive sort of counter-attacking game plan. The underlying metrics don't fare particularly well, but I do believe that's a stylistic thing for Forest. You're more likely to sort of soak up pressure and concede shots playing in the manner they do, but they do have players of ability in transitions to hurt you. And look, it worked a treat in various away games so far this season. Their City ground form hasn't always been as solid, but it's hard to trust Tottenham at the prices coming into this match. So I'm quite happy to be with Forest here too. I've gone slightly different, double chance in both teams to score, which is trading at 195. Forest have only lost 4 league games this season. They do possess the 3rd best defence in the division, but they have conceded in 8 of 9 against top half teams. Their only clean sheet came away at Anfield, of all places. And at the City ground, I mentioned this before, the Aston Villa match a fortnight ago, where I backed this selection. They've scored in 16 of 19 at home under Nuno, but they have only kept 4 clean sheets. 12 of those 19 have seen BTTS win at the City ground under Nuno. And obviously, we know all about Spurs, and they're capable of absolutely anything. Such strength in forward areas, but the openness at back is a concern. They've only won twice away under Postecoglou at teams above 10th. That was Man City this season and Villa last term. So overall, he's failed to win 17 of 27 away Premier League matches. So statistically, it's really reasonably strong. But I think at 195, it's a nice price to cheer on. So both teams to score, and Forest double chance. The only difference, I guess, from myself and Adrian is I've got the 1-1 on side and he hasn't. So, very similar selections.
Okay, Forest double chance and both teams to score, or over 2.5, combining with either or. Let's lock in the safe option with Mark here, and Forest both double chance and both teams to score. Yes, 195, and move on to West London derby here. Chelsea at home to Fulham. Chelsea 1.5, Fulham 7.0 shots at Stamford Bridge. Draw is 5.2. Both teams to score, yes, 155 currently on Matchbook. The Asian handicap line sees Fulham get 1.25 head goal start at 187, and the total for this game stands at 3.5. Might throw this back to you, Adrian. Chelsea struggled to break Everton down. Another 0-0 draw with Everton against a potential title hopeful. Fulham, similar story against Southampton, had a couple of chances to maybe break them down. Different sort of game for both here, particularly on Fulham away from home. So what approach are you expecting here, and what sort of game?
Chelsea got Everton, didn't they? I mean, they know what they're doing. The blueprint that frustrated Arsenal did the same to Chelsea. Probably shouldn't have been too shocked at that. I think if I'm Marco Silva, I'm inclined to almost try something similar. We saw with Fulham, one thing I've really admired about Silva's Fulham is their ability to or their desire to attack and to really go for it against pretty much everybody. But against Arsenal recently, they changed and they sacrificed a lot of the possession that they'd normally have and set up in a much deeper sort of block with the aim of launching these quick counters, and they scored from one and won the game, and got the draw, didn't they? They didn't win the game, they got the draw, but they literally had 2 shots against Arsenal, and could have scored 2 goals because the other shot was from another breakaway. So I think Fulham, who can do it both ways, but I think initially they might be quite circumspect here, and then they can also flick the switch and go more positive as well, depending on how it's all going. One thing that makes me think he'll be quite cautious is that Fulham don't have a good recent record at Chelsea. Failed to score in the last 6 visits to Stamford Bridge, which is not good at all. Actually, 5 of the last 6 meetings, home or away, between these two sides, I've seen both teams to score no and under 2.5 land. So, low scoring games where only one team has scored are kind of a feature of this particular fixture. I'm not going to pick that because Chelsea, great to watch. They like to score goals, and Fulham are capable of it. I'm going to go with Fulham on the handicap here because I think that they're always competitive, home and away, but particularly away. They've only lost twice on the road. Once, unluckily, to City, where they played really, really well, and also on the opening night at Manchester United, where again they were worthy of at least a draw. I think. They're their only 2 defeats away from Craven Cottage this season. And Chelsea at home haven't been as brilliant as they've been away. They've scored a lot less goals at the Bridge for whatever reason. They've actually only won 2 of their 8 home games by more than 1 goal, Chelsea. So, 6 of their 8 games, I haven't won them all, but the ones that they have won have mainly been, tight affairs where they win by a goal. So I'm going to go with Fulham on that +1.25 handicap at 1.87. I think they can absolutely stay in the game because they're very well organised without the ball. And if they do need to attack, through Anthony Robinson down the left and Raul Jimenez, who didn't start against Southampton, he'll surely start this game. They've got players in form that can go and score goals. So yeah, I back Fulham to make this a real good game for Chelsea and to provide them with another stiff test. So yeah, for this bet to lose, of course, Chelsea need to win by 2 clear goals. And as I say, that's not happened a great deal at the Bridge this season. So Fulham +1.25.
Okay, yeah, that's half your stake on Fulham +1 and the other half on Fulham +1.5, and that price is 187. Mark, Adrian spoke about Fulham's approach potentially similar to the Arsenal game where they sit back for large periods. You're going for both teams to score. Do you think there's be a little bit more going forward from Marco Silva's side here?
Possibly. I think Chelsea will allow you that opportunity the way in which they play. So I do believe there will be opportunities for them in counters and transitions at the very least, and that bit of after-timing. But I wasn't hugely surprised to see Chelsea drop points at Goodison over the weekend, and the weather wasn't great. Of course, Chelsea were the better side, but they weren't able to sort of open them up. They weren't at their fluent best. I didn't think they were terrific against Brentford last week, and I don't expect them to walk over Fulham here either. So I definitely had a good long look at the same play as Adrian. I'll get to that a little bit later, but I don't think Chelsea are playing badly. I just think the market is, or especially against Everton, is giving them a lot of credit compared to the opposition they're playing against. And both Everton and Fulham will provide different challenges. And yeah, look, Fulham I don't think have been easy meat for any team this season, home or away. They'll be disappointed not to have beaten Southampton, but they didn't do enough in the final third, in my opinion, to win that game comfortably at all. But 1 defeat in 9. More recently, they've held Spurs and Liverpool away, held Arsenal at home, Brighton too. They've won at Forest, gave City all sorts of problems at the Etihad. So the fact that Sunday was the first time they'd failed to score since the opening weekend shows they do carry a threat. Chelsea also saw their 15-game scoring streak ended at the weekend, but I think both teams have the opportunity to get back in the scoring groove in this game. Both teams have scored in 15 of their 17 overall this season. Both teams to score has been the right bet in 12 of Chelsea's 17, 13 of Fulham's 17. So just sort of using that as a base to work from, I think both teams to score has got a good chance of landing here. But I'll include under 5.5 goals to get it into a nice price of 186. So you've got the 1-1, the 2-2, the 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, or 3-2 for either team. And that's a huge amount of correct scores on your side for a 1.86 shot. Just 4 of the combined 34 games involving these two teams have seen 6 goals or more. 2 of those were Chelsea's trips to Southampton and Wolves, and the other was at Spurs as well. That's 3 of the 4, and you can kind of make allowances for those 3 games. Only 2 of Fulham's fixtures have featured a maximum of 5 goals, let alone 6. Only 2 sides have actually scored 3 goals against Fulham this season. So they've actually been involved in the second lowest XG average in the Premier League this season, which I was quite surprised about. Only Everton are below them when you strip out penalties, and Chelsea are the second highest in that particular metric. So I'm hoping they can sort of meet in the middle a bit here and we get a 1-1 or 2-1 or something similar. But yeah, look, you always fancy Chelsea to score, but as we've said almost weekly now for the past couple of years, they're far from trustworthy defensively too. So 1 home clean sheet under Maresca. Therefore, I think BTTS has got a good chance here. Package it alongside under 5.5. But I couldn't put anyone off that handicap approach. The reason why I didn't take it, if Chelsea win by exactly 1 goal, which is very plausible, you're only grabbing a half stakes profit. And I'm greedy. I want the full stakes. So I'm only really losing out on the 1-0 correct score here by backing the BTTS on under 5.5 goals, unless, of course, there is 6 or more. So, you know, the 2-1 or 3-2 defeats, I get a full payout. I also get the 3-1 on side, but both bets lose out if it's sort of 2-0, 3-0, etc. So just a bit of maths at play there, but I thought that was the better value option.
Okay, both teams to score. It's around 1.55, 1.6 on Matchbook, but you can boost that to 186, combining under 5.5 goals with Mark. But I will lean towards Adrian. Fulham +1/1.5 goals at around 187. Let's move on to our podcast money back special £20 money back as a free bet if your bet loses here. So well worth checking that out for Brighton versus Brentford on Friday night, which is the 27th at 7:30. One of the 2 Amazon games on the 27th. Brighton 173, Brentford 4.9. The draw is 4.4. Both teams to score 148 at the time of recording. The Asian handicap line sees Brentford get a 3/4 goal head start at 186. 3.5 is the total. Unders favoured at around 1.63. So Mark, back to you on this game. I mean, what are we sort of expecting here? I guess goals are at play. Brentford disappointed, not getting or adding to their home record at home to Forest, and Brighton getting that draw away to West Ham over the weekend.
Yeah, both will be eager to get back to winning ways. Matches between these 2 clubs are always quite interesting affairs because of the ownership, the history between the 2 men involved, and the way in which they operate their clubs. There are quite a lot of sort of similarities and intricacies between the 2 sides and the 2 owners. And yeah, expecting a decent contest between them. Should be good fun, actually. Brighton have scored in 16 of 17, Brentford in 14 of 17. Brighton just 3 clean sheets, Brentford just the 1. Both teams have scored in 14 of their opening 17 games each. That's an 82% hit rate, which is the highest in the division. So I think immediately you have to back both teams to score as a foundation to something you want to do in this game. And yeah, if you look at their respective clean sheets records in the home and away dates, going back to the start of last season, it's not particularly pretty either. So it's just 4 from 27, I think, in terms of the home and away records. So difficult to see those kind of figures improve here. They are fascinating sides, though, in their own right. Obviously, Brighton have beaten Spurs, City, United, held Arsenal away, won at Bournemouth, gave Liverpool a great game at Anfield, but failed to win 5 of 6 now against the bottom 6. They were better at West Ham, but even so, another game where they failed to win when sort of well favoured by the market. And then you've got Brentford, who've won 7 of 9 at home, won 17 of their 23 points against teams in 14th and below, but 8 defeats in 10 against the better sides in the division. 1 point from 8 away, which is kind of extending a really sorry streak, which started at the start of last season. Playing away from home, 19 defeats in the last 27 away Premier League games. 4 of their 5 wins in that sample came at bottom half sides. And sort of going back just to this season alone, it's not a real surprise to see Brentford struggling on their travels when you look at the data. Their shot tallies conceded away from home this season: 19, 18, 23, 23, 26, 27, 20, 26. So a minimum of 18 shots conceded in every away day, 20 or more conceded in 6 of 8, and an average over 22, which is easily the worst in the division. Almost 16 of those 22 shots are averaging from inside the penalty area. So it's quite hard to sort of ignore, or it's quite hard to sort of get Brentford on side in some way or form if they're sort of conceding that amount of opportunities, that amount of shots away from home. As at Brighton, now they've flopped a few times at short prices. Quite just happy to leave the result alone altogether here and just focus on goals. But I can package it alongside both teams to receive over 9.5 booking points. It boosts that BTTS price from, 150-ish to 182. Brighton have been booked in every game. Brentford have been booked in 16 of 17 games. The last 12 league meetings between these two have seen both sides carded. Andrew Madley is refereeing. He's delivered 4 cards or more in 7 of his 8 Premier League matches this season. It's just too big a boost for me just to include a card for each team on side of both teams to score. So it is my best bet of the Boxing Day card.
Ooh, 182 and revealing it nice and early. Wow, we've never really done that before, Mark. I don't really know where to go from that, to be honest. And Adrian, I don't know how you convinced me to get off that ship. But Mark's selection, both teams to score, both teams over 9.5 booking points, effectively 1 yellow card each at least. Take it away on your thoughts here, Adrian. Sorry, I did want to ask you, Brentford playing making 3 changes ish for the League Cup, losing that and then losing the Premier League game. What are we even doing here? I mean, what's football all about at the end of the day?
Yeah. Look, I thought it was nonsense. Team selection from Brentford in the cup game at Newcastle, very negative. We've spoken about that, and then they go and get beat. So just play. If you're playing. If you're not going to get relegated, and actually, even if you are near the bottom, try and win the cup. This is what the fans want. They want memories. They want to get to these showpiece finals, and just giving it up. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Just on that, Adrian, the Emirates on cup nights, they would have had a serious amount of supporters for the semi-final in the Emirates. They would have got a bigger cup allocation, great experience, and even if they lose that semi-final, it would have been a great experience for the fans. And I just don't understand it.
Exactly. And they gave Newcastle a massive leg up, and they got what they deserved. So I'd echo loads of what Mark said, really. Brentford's away form is not good, is it? They've leaked just the one away point all season. Tough games, but in general, giving up way too many chances, way too many. Mark's given you the numbers on those. Across the board, actually, the Bees have leaked 2 or more goals in each of their last 4 games. It's happened 5 times in their last 7. So, defensively, they're nowhere near as hard to play against as they have been previously in the Premier League. There's been a bit more boldness, a bit more adventure about Brentford this season. That's partly why we've seen Wissa and Mbumo shine so much. They've played to their strengths rather than protecting all the time. And I think against a Brighton team that really probably wants a lift, this is going to be quite hard for Brentford to stop them. Brighton didn't play brilliant. It was a slight improvement. Didn't play brilliant against West Ham. I know the second half was a lot better. I think Welbeck might be fit for this game, which could be a big thing for them. I think they certainly miss him up top. It's not the same with a João Pedro or a Ruter up there. So if he starts, I'd fancy Brighton even more. But they've been on just a bit of a mediocre run, haven't they? Lost at home to Palace, first home defeat, drew with Southampton at home, lost at Fulham. It's been a bit from Brighton, but I think this is a good chance for them to get back on the horse. That obviously they lost to Palace, their big rivals, in their last home game. So there's a little bit, they need to give their fans something to cheer about here. And I think they can. So I'm going to go with Brighton. Double chance. So I'm not going all in on Brighton, but I think we might do on the bet builder. Brighton double chance and both teams to score. That's a 1.83 shot. Both teams to score has landed in the last 9 Brighton games, and I think they can make it 10.
Okay, so there are the 2 selections. Brighton double chance and both teams to score, 183 marks. Both teams to score and both teams over 9.5 booking points. We're going to do our £20 podcast bet builder treble. We're going to combine the 2-ish. We're going to lean with Adrian's side, but push it out to a Brighton win. Both teams to score. And Mark's going to lock in over 39.5 booking points on similar lines to what he was saying there. And that is currently, at the time recording, in and around a 4.0 shot. So bet that on Matchbook, and your bet loses, you'll get your money back as a free bet up to £20 for Christmas. So well worth checking out. Risk-free play there potentially on the 27th, 7:30 kickoff on Prime or Premier Sports, as far as I know, in Ireland. Let's go to any other bets. Mark, 2 selections here. Sheffield United, the both teams score, no Kings. They helped us out a couple of weeks ago. And Burnley, I would probably say on similar lines, given you've made the selection here at 1.8.
Yeah, big game this, first versus third. 2 very different sort of footballing philosophies and styles, but 2 very effective sides in the Championship with the best defences in the division by a country mile, really. Blades have leaked 11 in 22, Burnley just 9 in 22, 28 clean sheets in their combined 44 Championship matches. That's 64% I think it's quite likely another will be added to the list on Boxing Day, actually. The magnitude of the match obviously fuels the fire here as well, but it's very easy to oppose goals. But understandably, the goals line is very low. Unders has copped in 34 of those 44 combined games. It's about 1.6-ish, or might even be shorter. But BTTS No has hit in 32 of those 44, so 73%. And to get it at 1.8, has to be worth a look. This might be terrible content for a podcast, but I'll just read Sheffield United's results against the top 11, home or away: 0-2, 1-0, 2-0, 0-1, 2-2, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. So 8 BTTS No winners against the 9 strongest sides they've faced. Not to mention the fact they haven't conceded a home goal since QPR turned up at Bramall Lane in August. That's 9 successive wins to nil for Sheffield United at home, which I believe is getting close to some sort of English football history record. Burnley's results against the top half read 1-0, 0-1, 1-1, 1-1, 0-0, 2-1, 2-0, 0-1, 1-0, 1-0. So that's 7 BTTS No winners from 10 against the top half, whilst 8 of their 11 outside of Turf Moor have also seen this selection pay. And just to cap it off, these two teams have seen the lowest non-penalty expected goals averages in the division by a distance, 1.98 and 1.73 XG per game on average when these two teams are on show. So, yeah, big game. Happy to oppose goals. BTTS No at 1.8.
1.8 currently at the time recording. Sheffield United, Burnley, both teams to score no. Second one, Scottish Premiership. Mark, I saw stats. Celtic 4 goals conceded in 16 league games. So I thought that was insane. It just looks wrong when you look at the table. But anyway, the Aberdeen hype has sort of ran out of steam over the last few weeks. Bad form. And Kilmarnock not in the best form themselves, although getting their act together near the bottom of the table. Draw no bet for Kilmarnock at home to Aberdeen, 193.
Aberdeen had an outstanding start, 10 wins from 11 unbeaten games to the Premiership season. That included a 2-2 draw away at Celtic, and it sort of raised hopes that there might be a title race despite Rangers floundering. But the data always suggested they were overachieving and overperforming, and they have fallen away lately. Fatigue is an element here. They're playing in Europe, of course, as well, but the expected points rankings have Aberdeen as low as 6th in the Scottish Premiership, and their XP return, I should say, is 13 points lower than their actual points tally. Remarkably, they've only won the XG battle in 5 of their 17 Scottish Premiership matches when we strip out penalties. And they come into this festive card winless in 6, 3 draws, 3 defeats. That includes a 3-1 home loss to Hibs last time out. They also failed to beat rock bottom St Johnstone at home prior to that. They've only managed 3 clean sheets all season. They've only played 7 away league games, but they've got a reasonable 3-3-1 in those 7 fixtures, but 6 of those came against teams in 6th or below, and they only won the XG battle once in those 7 games as well. So it doesn't look good from a data standpoint. Kilmarnock, yes, they're down in 9th, not exactly pulling up trees, but more importantly, this game is at Rugby Park, where they are just so difficult to beat. It's one of my favourite stats in British football history. British football, I should say, not history. British football. But Kilmarnock have lost 5 home league games against non-Old Firm sides since February 2021, which is almost 4 years of football, which I think is absolutely astonishing. And I had to sort of triple check it to make sure it was correct. But they do play on a plastic pitch at Rugby Park, which is a big advantage. But yeah, 5 home defeats since February 2021 when hosting non-Old Firm sides. They've already beaten Rangers here this season, and the data shows that they're no easy meet at home. They've won the XG battle in 5 of 7 at home. The times they didn't, they had a red card after only 6 minutes, yet they still managed to beat Hearts. And the other was against Celtic, which is completely understandable. And they're getting a scratch 0 start here at 193, which is the same as draw no bet. Happy to back them at that price. They've won 3 on the spin, hosting Aberdeen, and they've lost just once in the last 7 hosting Aberdeen as well. So 193 Kilmarnock plus 0 against Aberdeen.
Okay, some stat there. Kilmarnock draw no bet effectively against Aberdeen, 193, and both teams score Sheffield United. Burnley, no, that is. And you're on the same bet, Adrian, but under 2.5 goals to boost up the price as well.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, we were going to pick the same one, but look, it goes to show we're on the same wavelength. But I've gone just, if you want to push the boat out a little bit more, you compare the both teams scored no, which was, eloquently pitched from Mark at 1.8. You can get 1.98, or pretty much even money if you put under 2.5 goals in there as well. So you're sort of, back in the the low scoring wins there, I guess, not the 1-1 draw. Look, Burnley matches average 1.68 goals a game, well under 2.5. Sheffield United matches average 1.95 a game. Just 5 of 22 matches for both teams, Clarets and Blades, have gone over 2.5 goals this season, which is just mad, really. That's 10 of 44, 23%, which obviously leaves, a nice strong amount of matches that have gone under, 34 of 44. Incredible, really. Mark's gone through all the figures in regards to both teams to score no landing so often. 17 of 22 for Sheffield United, 15 of 22 games for Burnley. So 1.98 on that scenario unfolding.
Okay, yeah. And the second selection here is a fun Stevens' Day / 27th fourfold here, Adrian. So take it away. What are the 4 bankers over the next couple of days?
Just keep the old 26th and 27th interesting if you want to. There are some bankers out there, I think. Arsenal to beat Ipswich. I don't think you need me to go through any figures really there. Arsenal at home to Ipswich. You would fancy them heavily. Liverpool, Leicester. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the odds on this one. I think Leicester are 27.0 to win at Anfield. Leaking goals for fun. Liverpool will surely win that game. So you got Arsenal and Liverpool. I've got Birmingham to beat Burton. Birmingham, Moneybags Birmingham in League One. Surely at home to little old Burton Albion, who have just got a new manager, by the way, in Gary Bowyer. He's an experienced campaigner, but it's not a lot to work with player-wise at Burton. You would expect the Blues to swat them aside. And then the final part of it is what I would regard as the slightly risky bit, and that's Leeds to win at Stoke. The overall price is 2.22 on the fourfold ACCA. Leeds should win at Stoke. Leeds are flying, scoring goals, but their best performances have been at home. So that's where the element of risk lies. It might be a bit of recency biased here, but Stoke are struggling. They're winless in 8 now under Narcis Palak. He is under massive pressure. The fans aren't really having him. And I worked on their game at Sheffield Wednesday at the weekend. They were pretty dreadful when it was 11v11. It was goalless. And then Sheffield Wednesday had a player sent off just before half time. And instead of going on to win that game, Stoke lost it 2-0 with a man advantage. They still conspired to lose. Didn't really offer very much at all. I think, the Bet365 might be a little bit on edge ahead of Leeds United's visit, and I could see things getting a little bit toxic in the home stadium. So I'm going to go with Arsenal to beat Ipswich, Liverpool to beat Leicester, Leeds to win at Stoke, and Birmingham to beat Burton, and it comes in at 2.22.
Okay, multiples, of course, available on Matchbook. Let's move on to long shots. And Mark, both teams to score fourfold. I'm guessing you picked out 4 games you feel, despite all the goals in the Premier League, that these prices are overpriced, because it comes out at a nice 5.6 with these 4 Prem games.
Yeah, well, I realised that I'd put both teams to score up in all 4 of the featured games we've talked about today. And I just thought, why not make it into a fourfold? And I can absolutely get behind them in each individual game. So make it a fourfold and make it my long shot for this week. It's a nice price. Just in terms of scoring, Chelsea have scored in 15 of 17, as have Fulham. Newcastle have scored in 14 of 7. Villa have scored in 13 of 17. Forest in 14 of 17. Spurs in 14. Brighton in 16. Brentford in 14 of 17. So every side on show has scored in at least 76% of their Premier League games this season. We landed a nice little Champions League ACCA on match day 6. So I'm just going to have a little sort of repeat for a Christmas cracker on Boxing Day at 5.6. I'm quite happy to sort of support that, and will do with my own pennies too. Okay,
love that. Let's go to Adrian's selection here. Sheffield United versus Burnley in around the 6.5, 7.0 mark. Adrian will get you exact price in a minute, but a bit of security if this game, if you're going to lose the both teams to score no, it's probably going to be 2-1 all, isn't it?
Yeah, look, we've outlined why both teams to score no is such a good pick here. We've outlined why under 2.5 goals is a great selection here, and both very short, but we've combined them, and and it comes out at even money. That's great, isn't it? Except if it finishes 1-1, and then you're absolutely fuming, aren't you? So I'm just going to propose a little cover bet here. Obviously, at a much bigger price, getting up towards 7.0, 6.5 at worst, to just bet on Sheffield United 1, Burnley 1. For all the reasons outlined, we don't think it will be a high scoring game. The one result that kills us is the 1 apiece. So maybe a little wager on that to cover ourselves and to potentially earn even more off the back of that result. So that's my thinking here.
Okay, we'll be in and around 7.0 on Matchbook. Best bets time. And Mark, you've ruined this for everyone by declaring it in the middle of the show. So maybe whatever else you want to add to this, your best bet on the whole of the 26th.
Yeah, it's both teams to score and both teams to be carded in Brighton versus Brentford. I think this is a statistical beauty. I don't think there's many statistically stronger bets we've talked about this season. Both teams to score is trading around 1.5. That's understandable. Brighton have scored in 16 of 17. Brentford in 14 of 17. Brighton have 3 clean sheets. Brentford just the 1. BTTS has hit in 14 of their opening 17 each. That's 82%. But both sides to be booked on top of that gives us a lovely leap up to 182. Brighton booked in every game. Brentford in 16 of 17. Each of the last 12 meetings have seen both sides booked. And Andrew Badley has given 4 or more cards in 7 of 8. So, there's not too many holes in that selection. And to get 1.82 off the back of it, I think is hugely appealing.
Okay, we'll lock that in 182. Both teams to score and both teams to be carded in 182. That's over 9.5 booking points on Matchbook. Bet builder Brighton versus Brentford. And Adrian, AFC Wimbledon. If we can't do the MK Dons, let's do the real thing this week for the 26th and go with AFC Wimbledon under 4.5 goals.
Yeah, the Wombles. Yeah, they take on Swindon, a Swindon team that won the other day. It's really struggling at the bottom end of League Two, Swindon Town. A lot of issues there, protests against the owner, Clem Mafuni. But Ian Holloway won his 1,000th match as a manager at the weekend, which was great. A great moment for him. Chuffering because he's a nice guy, isn't he? But I do think that this is he might come crashing down to earth. AFC Wimbledon were beaten actually on the road at the weekend, but they are a strong team, very good defensively this season under Johnny Jackson, and they've got a terrific home record. If you wanted to back AFC Wimbledon to win the game, they're 1.55, which is too short for me to tip up. But if you add in under 4.5 goals to that, it comes out more like a 1.91, maybe even slightly higher. So that is attractive to me, and that's why I've picked it out. This is the team with the second best home record in League Two, entertaining the side with the second worst away record. So that in itself, slants everything towards AFC Wimbledon for me. Swindon on the road, lost 7, drawn 3, won 1. That's not away. That's their record against top half sides actually. Wimbledon are 6th at the moment. So their record against the top half is lost 7, drawn 3, won 1. So yeah, lots of reasons to fancy Wimbledon. Under 4.5. Well, 19 of 21 Swindon games have gone under 4.5. 18 of 20 Wimbledon games have gone under 4.5. And League Two, as an average this season, is coming out at 2.5 goals a game. So it feels fairly safe that this one's going to be under 4.5. Incidentally, League One's 2.58 goals a game. Championship 2.48. That's the lowest. Premier League's the outlier, 3.03 goals a game so far this season. So yeah, but the best bet for me, AFC Wimbledon and under 4.5, around 1.91.
Okay, that's 1.91. My thanks to Adrian and Mark. Finally, guys, Mark, we've got a lot of comments. Merry Christmas, Mark. Any wishes for 2025? What's Mark O'Haire's, goal for QPR himself? Anything to throw to the listeners or viewers who are still with us after all those podcasts throughout the year?
It's always the same for a profitable and prosperous new year and calendar year. So, hopefully we can keep the good times rolling for another year before we have to give up and try and get a normal job.
Adrian, for you, because you dip in with this, you do a lot of football stuff, but that's I think why people like listening to both you guys coming from 2 different angles. But what's your wish for 2025?
Yeah, world peace. No, I mean that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
World peace would be lovely. Just some magic cream for Bukayo Saka's hamstring, please.
Yeah, please.
Wouldn't mind that in
please.
the old Christmas stocking. But no, Mark's said it all. No, it's been great this year. Absolutely loved it. Hope all the viewers and listeners have a great Christmas, and yeah, come back for more of this nonsense in 2025.
And in one word, Adrian, can Arsenal win the Premier League this season?
Yes, yeah. I'm not going to.
That's enough
I don't
for
need
me.
to exaggerate, but yeah, of course they can. Yeah.
Insights.matchbook.com, full recap of all the guys' picks and like and subscribe. And if you are watching or listening still on YouTube, do hit a comment with any questions for the guys' New Year's or any sort of memories from the podcast throughout the year. But we'll be back bigger than ever in 2025. Enjoy the Christmas period. We'll be taking a week off naturally, but we'll be back to cover. There is Premier League games the first weekend of January, that Thursday, and then another break for FA Cup, effectively then coming back in full from that third weekend in January. But make sure to enjoy the football and make sure betting enhances that enjoyment. Make sure you do so responsibly. We will chat to you all in the new year. Bye bye from all the team. Cheers.